impression in the game you get out with what you put into it. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Carey. Carey leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put him hard.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
Hello and you're very welcome to Treaty Talk. Tom Clancy here alongside Matt O'Callaghan of the Weekly Observer and Vale Star newspapers. We're here for episode 325 and indeed we're here for the start of the Munster Senior Hurling Championship. And Matt, it's the weather seems to be good. The Easter Sunday's around the corner and we're hoping for another magic spring and indeed summer supporting Limerick and watching all things good about hurling around the country.
Yeah, Tom. But if you would just permit me for a minute to start on a rather sad note, I would like to pass a vote of sympathy from Treaty Talk to Margaret Dei and her sons Donald, Pat, and David on the sad passing during the week of Danny Dei, a hugely well-known character, a sportsman in Limerick. Particularly with his native brewery. And of course, we all know the three lads, and we know David in particular from being a well-known referee and from his involvement with Limerick Kamogi. But sometimes when I think of Danny, who I knew very well, I honestly think that the term all-round sportsman was kind for him because he was such a fantastic sportsman. Any sport he turned his hand to, he mastered it. Hurling, football, golf, soccer, an outstanding badminton player. And, he was somebody that you felt enriched any time you met him. And his knowledge of sport was second to none. He was always good for a good laugh. Even right up to the end, Tom, he's been ill for the last 2 years. Been pretty seriously ill, and gosh, the warrior that was in him. He fought it to the very, very to the bitter end. A fantastic family man, great employee of Golden Vale Marts. I think his entire working life was in Golden Vale Marts, and he absolutely loved brewery and everything that was in brewery. And not only was he involved in the sports in brewery, but also involved in community life in brewery. And his untimely passing, Tom, is very, very, very sad. Very sad to the brewery GA club, to the brewery community, and indeed to the GA family in general. And we would like to extend our sincere sympathy to Margaret, the lads, and the extended family.
Yeah, very well said, Matt. And I know I wouldn't know the family too overly well. I know you know them better than I, but I know Dave, and obviously it's been a tough battle for them. And I suppose we pass our condolences to all connected in brewery and indeed the Dei family on the sad passing of Danny. Okay, as I said, Matt, we're here to talk hurling in predominantly. We'll also talk Camogie, football, and indeed other bits and pieces, I'm sure, over the next 60 minutes or so. But I'm delighted to say, to help us preview this week's action, indeed the throw-in of the Munster Senior Hurling Championship, which sees Limerick face Tipperary. I'm delighted to say we're joined by Eoin Birslane, former Tipperary hurler, and indeed Pat Ryan, former Limerick hurler. Pat and Eoin, welcome to Treaty Talk. How's all with you, lads?
All good.
All good. How are you, lads? You're very welcome. Delighted to have you back in Treaty Talk.
Thanks, Matt. Delighted to be here.
Thanks, Matt. Great, Pat. I'll throw to you first as I suppose a Limerick man, not too far from the border. We were discussing there before we were getting recording. A special one for the people of Doon and I suppose the surrounding areas where when you're playing Tipp, as you said to me, people in the city might be looking at the Clare game, people maybe down towards Charleville direction will be looking at the Cork game, but certainly out in your neck of the woods, it's all about Tipp when those fixtures come out, isn't it?
Yeah. This was always for anyone involved with Limerick out around my area. This was always our big game, you know what I mean? And my favourite games growing up along would be it was minor or under 21 or senior. I always felt like this game meant a small bit more to me, you know what I mean? On a personal level, I have family in Tipperary, obviously, and stuff like that, and just the club being so close. And I would have went to school with lads from Tipperary in Cap White and Ennacarty and stuff like that. So this was always the big one. It has that big one feel out around here, and we're as close, even mile wise. We're actually 1 kilometre closer to Simple Stadium than we are to get a grounds. It was we looked up on Google Maps here one day, and from the hurling fin doing so like that. Now it's a short journey as well for us, so this is just really, really exciting one now.
And Owen, I put it to you as a tip man, you probably enjoyed this fixture for maybe a decade or two, but I think in the last 6-7 years, it's not been a pleasant one for Tipperary supporters and indeed players, because, you know, and I'm not gloating here, but Limerick have dominated this fixture in recent years.
Yeah, which Limerick have dominated for the last number of years, so not just Tipperary, but yeah, listen, it has been a fairly daunting one. They're the trendsetters and have been for the last number of years, so it's again, it's going to be no different again the weekend with a Tipperary. Yeah, so like as I say, everybody has been like in the last number of years have been looking at Limerick and in Rivalry League or Levy Championship to be kind of, they're the ones you want to have a go at, you know what I mean? So listen, it's no different the weekend, but yeah, it's just only with Limerick. There's great rivalry, but there's great respect there too, and the supporters and people, they hop off each other and players, but listen, there's always a bit of banter around too at the same time, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very, very hard to determine exactly where Tipperary are at. You know, after a very, very poor championship campaign last year, they seem to have turned it around this year, particularly in the league. Kick-started it with a great win over Galway and, you know, built on it, won all the games except against Limerick. But in the final came up very, very much short to Cork. Did we see the real Tipperary in the league final?
Hope not. I was down in Cork, and I suppose it was nearly like it was nearly set up for Cork the way it was the supporter wise. We were outnumbered big time down there on the day. It was a fairly poor game now. Both it wasn't anyway exciting or riveting at all. The end of the previous game was actually more exciting than the whole 60 minutes of the Waterford Offaly game. But from a Tip point of view, it was disappointing. We came away, I suppose, like you're saying there, Matt, I suppose this year we were kind of looking at the league and we were saying, okay, in comparison to 24, we were saying, listen, at least our team looks to be a bit more settled, and we have Owen Connolly at fullback and Dial and Corner, and we have Rowan that's settled at 6, and the team was looking to be a bit more settled at least. That was one of the criticisms we had last year going into the championship, was when Clare beat us last year in the league semi-final, like we hadn't the 6, we hadn't the 3, we had nothing settled. And so to come away from Cork, I suppose you're right in what you're saying. We don't really know what to expect come this weekend. We know we're not as bad as we are in Cork, and I suppose as a Tipperary supporter, we're just hoping that we can bring a better intensity to the game. I suppose the game in Cork, when Cork had to go out for 21 or 2 minutes, you could see the writing on the wall, and it was like, I suppose that's the worrying thing. And I suppose then on the flip side, I suppose Limerick, for the first time in years, no one really knows where Limerick are at either. From a point of view, they still have obviously outstanding players all over the field, and they've outstanding players to come in, but they've a lot of their key names haven't played a lot of hurling in the last 4 or 5 months. So from a Tipperary point of view, I suppose we're hoping that the game we were so flat 2 weeks ago, that hopefully there's a bounce in Tipperary this weekend, and that we might maybe Limerick might be a bit flat, and that we might catch them. Do you know what I mean? So, but you're right what you're saying. It's really hard to know. Like I say, after the winter, we're kind of coming in saying, right, listen, this is looking promising, and like at the end of the day, we're all very realistic in Tipperary. We know where we're at. It's building, and we have a good lot of young lads coming, and with the Hardy Cups and 20s and minors, but and it's really a process. You know what I mean? But like we won no game in the championship last year, like, so we're like. And like getting to a league final this year was a step further, which is great. But listen, we'll have a fair idea now on Sunday where we're at after this game, to see where we're at, to be honest with you.
Pat, can I ask the same question to you now? Some of those that are involved are your former teammates. Limerick's campaign in the league, at best, I suppose, can be described as indifferent. Now, I know they were dogged by injuries, and John Kiley made the point, I think, after the Wexford game, that he had teams selected on a couple of Thursday nights only to have to change them again because of injuries. Where do you think Limerick are at? Are they a small bit under the radar?
Under the radar, I'm not 100% sure if you could be under the radar when you're in the top two for most people's picks to win the All Ireland. You know what I mean? A lot of people have Cork as favourites, which is probably fair enough going on this year's form, but I wouldn't say we're completely under the radar either. Like, you know what I mean? But I do think we're in a good position. The good thing with this Limerick team is the amount of experience, you know, you can draw on over different years. We've had years where we've won the league and went on to win the All Ireland, you know, so you've experienced to draw on there, that's how you can keep the momentum up and keep it going. But we've also had years where we didn't have good league campaigns. 21 and 22, you know, we had quite poor league campaigns, and our last one in 22, it was kind of similar to this year. We were playing Cork in the first round away, and Cork had just lost the league final. So Cork had went on a run in the league final and lost to Waterford. You know what I mean? And I think that extra break we had, and knowing that the levels had to come up a bit, you know what I mean? And there is a nervousness there when you're not playing well and the confidence isn't flowing. There is a more nervousness there, but sometimes nerves are a great thing to sharpen the tools, you know what I mean? And to put in effort and to mind yourself and get everything right in that 4 or 5 weeks. And in that first round blowing Cork, we went down and Limerick won by 8 points that day, you know. So there was kind of a great feeling of, oh yeah, look, we're back. We can produce it when needs must. And I don't think we win by 8 points this weekend now. I do think Tipp will play well. I've seen Tipp in person twice this year. I was at the Limerick game and I was at the Cork game above when they beat Cork and Thurles. They've definitely improved an awful lot where they were maybe in the last 2 or 3 years. Their backs, as Owen said, are very settled. And I think their backs are performing well as a whole. They probably just need extra scores coming, you know, throughout the forwards as much. Like, fairness to Jason Ford and Jake Morris, they've been there a long time. They both scored 4 points in playing a league final. You know what I mean? If you need more forwards, getting more scores like that and contributing like that, and they won't be too far away. Then they'll be hoping to get a performance like they did in 2023, the last time these teams met in Thurles, you know, which went right to the wire and which was an unreal game to us. So something like that similar now, but I do think I expect long answer around, Matt. I expect a very good performance in Limerick, but I also expect a very good performance from Tipp because I think they're in a good place. So I think we're in for a very, very good game on Sunday.
Yeah, it's a point well made, Pat. Just in terms of the Limerick team, you know, Matt used the phrase under the radar. I probably disagree with him on that, but are we at we're April 2025? Is this the first time since 2018 or maybe 2019, if you look at it that way, that we're probably a little bit uncertain about a lot of the Limerick team? You know, as Owen rightly said, a lot of the guys there haven't seen a lot of game time. It's been a bit stop-start, and maybe the next generation almost have dominated in the league. Now, we've seen this before, and of course that doesn't mean that John Kiley won't revert to the lads that have served him so well. So where are you on the Limerick team selection at this point? It's maybe a little bit more open than we would have seen in previous years.
But it feels like fellas are asking for that for years. You know what I mean? You always want to be careful what you're asking for, because even when we lost in 2019, people were kind of saying, oh geez, there'll have to be a few changes to the team now. But you know, I'm a firm believer in that, and maybe look, that's because I've never been a manager or anything like that, and you probably have to think of things differently when you're a manager about maybe other years down the line. But I think the best team should always be picked, you know, on who the best players are in that year and who's performing the best at training and coming up to games. And over the years, that just has been the same players. You know what I mean? They haven't dropped the levels and what they have now. This year, you could argue they have, but it's only the league, so he won't go too far away from it. A couple of young players I thought had very good leagues. Obviously, I thought Adam showed some great flashes in various games. I thought Aidan O'Connor was absolutely super. Could have got man of the match he got it in the Galway game, I think, and he could have got it in another game easily. Colin Coughlin
against Tipp, I think, actually, yeah.
Yeah, was that what it was? Yeah. So you know, a lot of these fellas will push really hard. Paddy O'Donovan was one now that probably I thought from when we saw him, he deserved maybe to get a start or two coming to the league, and he didn't get it. But maybe he's a fella now that can push in to be, you know, a fella coming on for the last 10 minutes. Because, like I said, when I saw Paddy now, I thought he was very, very good. But look, none of us know what the team will be. When I go back to 2022, when it happened in various years when we hadn't a great league, those were actually the years that John Kiley seemed to throw a spanner in the works. Like in 2022, in that game I talked about after the bad league, Kyle Hayes started full forward below against Cork and got a goal in the first half. You remember, he came in along the end line. So maybe we could see something completely left field now that we didn't see in the league. No, I'm not saying we will. I've no idea, but maybe Cathal O'Neill will end up in the half back line, or something else that we haven't seen. So it'll be interesting to see now.
One thing we will see is we'll see a new Limerick goalkeeper. I say new in terms of Nicky Quaid. I think he'd missed 2 games in the last 15 seasons of championship. So it looks to be Shane Dowling from looking in from the outside, and it's a big role, big boots to fill for him heading into the cauldron that can be Thurles. One.
Oh, sorry, Tom. Listen, it is. It is, I suppose, Tom. But he's a very experienced player, and he's had a couple of very good seasons with Piercing and stuff. I don't know. It does look like Shane Dowling. Jason Gillen's just watching him at club level there for the last couple of years, been playing against him in league and stuff. He's a very, very good operator too. And I suppose it's a pivotal position. It has been. I don't actually think Nicky Quaid was getting the credit he deserved over the last few years. I think, to me, he was outstanding, and he was making that team tick, and he knew when to slow down. He knew when as we were making the runs, he was always 9 times out of 10 he was taking the right option. And he will be a big loss. And I suppose it's an area that Tipperary can really put pressure on the weekend, is maybe put a bit of pressure on whichever goalie is in, because whoever is in is going to be nervous, because it'll be their first championship. It'll be a debut for them, in championship level. So it's an area I suppose people try and target, But listen, as Pat was rightly saying, there is experience all over that Limerick team, and the one thing about it is management and all the rest. But more importantly, players, when they're in the field or in the huddle, they can look around that circle there, and there'll be no fear in their eyes. There'll be only confidence and motivation to prove again, because the one thing. Write them off at your power. As Pat was rightly saying, they're probably definitely in the top 2 teams. It's probably a lot of people will call it a 3-horse race this year again. But listen, I wouldn't be concerned too much about the Limerick with Shane or Jason. Well, I wouldn't be too concerned about. But it's definitely I think whoever goes in will be fine. But they will have they will probably have a couple of nervy moments here or there, but it's an area that maybe Tipperary could capitalise on if they can put a bit of pressure on that. We'll say that puck out that he wants to get to a half forward line, in front of a half forward line, or wants to get out to a midfielder in front of her, or in front of, we'll say, Key Lynch at 11. If they can cut them out and capitalise on them, that's where the questions will come. But that's the if,
I think even it's the Tipperary goalkeeper situation is a funny one, is it, over the last couple of years, because remember Rhys Shelley's debut was actually that game 2 years ago when Tipp and Limerick drew, and that was his first game, and he was unreal. He scored a long range free, he had a great game, and even the next day against Galway, I know they lost in the qualifiers, he pulled off a save from Conor Whelan in the second half, 10 yards. I still don't know how he said it, but then Barry Hogan's gotten back in since, and there's kind of been a to and a fray. It's just, I don't know, the Tipperary goalkeeper situation is a funny one at the same time, and I know you're trying to nail down your team, but nobody seems to have real confidence.
But I think that would have been a criticism of, would say, a lot of people would have had that problem with the whole team for the last couple of years, in particular last year, that we were coming out of the league, and I say we had no goalkeeper, we had no 3 set up, we had no 6, like last year in the league semi-final against Clare. Rob Byrne was centre back, and he didn't get a second of championship afterwards. Do you know what I mean? So
even that day last year on, it seemed like you'd no free taker. These things don't help. They don't help the situation when
he started off with Jason Ford, he missed 2, and then I think it went to Gerard O'Connor, and then they went to
Willie Connors took one.
Willie Connors ended up taking him, I think, for a finish. You know what I mean? So and I see even the last day now in Cork, Darren McCarthy, obviously he was exceptional for frees all league. But then he was having a poor day from play, but an off day from play, but he was taken off, and Jason finished on the free. So listen, that's the concerning thing, still, from Tipperary point of view, is that they're Pat, as a player, you need to be showing confidence. Goalkeeper number 1 needs to be showing confidence and showing that's a very tricky position, and he needs that the management has his back, and if he has an off, in particular the way puckouts are gone. They're high-risk puckouts. The day of a goalie getting the ball and landing it below in the far 21-yard line and get ready for the launch and hitting hope, that's the easy one. But when you're hitting an 80-20 puckout to a wing-back centre back, centre fielder, or centre forward, and you're trying to pinpoint puck outs in between bodies, there's bound to 1 or 2 go astray. And the one thing with Nicky Quaid, if that happened to Nicky Quaid, it wouldn't even flinch. If he did 2 in a row, 3 in a row, it wouldn't matter. Do you know what I mean? Because he would just go on to the next one again. Whereas with Shane, with Jason, with Barry Hogan, they're just being scrutinised now, and it will be scrutinised, and there'll be questions asked, and will the panic set in? So that's probably the only area from a Limerick point of view, but from a Tipperary point of view, I think they have settled on Barry. It looks like it. But if things do go wrong for him, they need to settle in, leave him alone. If Darren McCarthy misses 1 or 2 frees in the first 10 or 15 minutes, stick with him. Do you know what I mean? And show a bit of light, show a bit of confidence in him. You know what? Listen,
I wonder if the Shane Dowling experiment goes well. Could we see Bubbles Dwyer in goals for Tipperary next year? As a man was telling me the other day, he played in goals for Killinall last year. I don't know if that's something
Bubbles would have said he was done. Like, I'm done. I think Shane Dowling feels that maybe he's unfinished business, but maybe Bubbles is I'm done.
Picking goalies in hands, the best hands, you'd be say definitely picking one of the Bubbles would be definitely. I don't know.
Owen, in general, where are you with the new Tipperary players? Owen Connolly would seem to be a success. You've Robert Doyle as well. You've Joe Caesar. You have Sam O'Farrell. You have the moving of Craig Morgan from cornerback to midfield. And up front, then you have Darren McCarthy, as you said. You have young Sean Kennelly. Where are you on those changes? Is it a bit early?
Yeah, it is early. Of course, it's early, and it's definitely early on Darren McCarthy and Sam O'Farrell, who are only 19 years of age. But both of them look to be promising good young lads that will have really good potential long term to be there. And probably a bit fair to be asked. Like, there's no way that a Limerick or a Cork, whatever, would be expect a 19-year-old to lead the line on their teams. But I think there's patience required there. Owen Connolly has been definitely a revelation. I think at 3, I think he really fits the role perfectly. He's strong, he's athletic, he's good hurler, he's good hands, and again, he'll be tested. And he was like, there was a lot of people giving out about him in Cork and that he was well beaten below in Cork. But at the end of the day, if you're a fullback and you're getting that kind of ball rained in you, ball after ball after ball, like, I don't care who you are, you're not going to withstand that. Like, and in particular, like Brian Hayes, like that high ball in there, it was just relentless. So I'd give him a break there now. I think I put it this way, he's the best we have anyway. We've no better, right? So
I think he has the potential to be a good county inter.
100%. 100%. The Canolman cornerback, the Isle cornerback, he plays actually full forward for his club, and he's actually very good in the forwards and has been very good in the forwards. But I think he's been good cornerback. I think he's again, Pat Horgan giving lots of bother blow in Cork, but I think he needs to trust his pace and play from in front, and that'll come with a bit of experience. He was standing behind Patrick Horgan the other day. I just think he needs to go at least get side by side on him and just trust his ability. He's well able to hurl. He's got good pace. Again, I like him. The Craig Morgan going from cornerback to midfield. Listen, Craig's a good hurler, he's tenacious and all the rest. He's a bit to learn there. But has he potential to grow into that position? Of course he has, 100% he has. But he'll be up against a really good test. Again, we don't know who the Limerick midfield is going to be. The winner, who's going to be? It's going to be a strong midfield. It'll be Dara or Adam. We will all presume Will O'Donoghue who's going to be there. So whoever's out there, it's going to be Colin Neal could be out there too. We don't know. So listen, that's going to be a really, really tough test for him. But like, if he can get himself in the right position on breaking balls and he's really go forward, and listen, he's in my opinion, he's probably as best we have at the minute in there. So, but I think he can get better. I think he can improve. Sam O'Farrell, again, young guy. He's he's kind of wing back midfield. Is his best positions. He's a bit green, and he's a bit green in Cork, running down a couple of dark alleyways. But what I liked about him was at least he was getting the ball and going with it and making good runs, and he was on the end of a couple of good passes as well, and putting himself in the right position. So, like, again, there's loads to work with there. He's raw now. Darren McCarthy is a really good player. Again, there's a lot of expected out of Darren McCarthy. Like, he carried Tuivara last year to a county final. like if you looked at him, 20 last year, got a score to win, like outstanding to win the game. This year, even against Limerick, we watched him. Limerick were raging favourites that night and were expected to win easy, but Limerick came at him with thunder that Tip and were by far the better team, work rate on the night. But Dara, in fairness to him, was the one guy when Matthew Fitz got the goal, he came out to wing forward, caught the next puck out, turned his man upside down, put it over the bar, and kind of there's great leadership in him. And I just know from talking to the guys and to Iver, there's more senior players, there's a great freshness. Like, he's young, but he has that leadership qualities. He's not afraid to speak up and man up, you know what I mean? But again, he had a tough day at the office in Cork, but I think he learned from it. Pat will know inside that position, in the inside line, it's difficult because some days the ball can bounce into your hand, the next day the ball can bounce out of your hand. So I think he'll learn big time from that the last day. And Sean Keneally, again, another good player, puts himself in a good position, got a good hand, and he'll take his opportunities. But the one player that I was really happy with in Cork was and a lot of people in Tipperary were kind of writing him off, was Jason Ford. I thought he was outstanding the last day in Cork. And as Pat was rightly saying, Jason and Jake are kind of leading the line, but consistent. I suppose both of them we need him to be more consistent and leading that line. And if it's the Dara McCarthy's and it's the lads around him, then we don't know if it's going to be who's going to be with him up there. Like, I was surprised I didn't see John McGrath come on the last day. His club form last year was outstanding, so I don't know what's going on there. But I think Noel has a broken thumb, but John, I was surprised not to see him at all. But listen, there's lots of young players in Tipperary. I suppose we just need to speed it. You'd love to fast forward a couple of years and get them through a bit quicker, but these things, unfortunately, take time. You know what I mean? But them guys there, you're going to see all of them, obviously, this championship anyway, and it'll be a big test for them this year, in particular the younger lads, to see how they perform, in particular on Sunday, because they're going to get lots of attention on Sunday.
Yeah,
if I could turn to you, the goalkeeper obviously is a subject of much debate in Limerick. So will centre half back. Declan Hannon has played no game time during the league. We're unlikely to see him starting anyway on Sunday. Is the centre half back position, which is vital, is it nailed down for Kyle Hayes?
It looks like that anyway, Matt. Looking from the outside in, it really does look like that. And I remember actually the day when Tipp came to play Limerick this year in the league, when Kyle went off that day, I said to myself, Jesus, Tipp will surely win this game. You know, Tipp had a kind of a quite strong team out and had been performing well, and we were missing a lot of names. And then Kyle going off, you know, I thought, you know, to such an important player like that. But look, Ethan Hurley came in and done really well and had a fine league, I thought, when he played any minutes that he did play. But it looks to me like Kyle would be 6. The only other person I could see that could tug out on 6 on Sunday would be if they decided to play William O'Donoghue at 6 and maybe Kyle at 7. But it doesn't look like they're going to do that. It looks like someone new will come into 7 position, whether that's Colin Coughlin, whether that's Barry Nash coming out, whether that's, like I said, maybe if someone like Conor Nealon back. But to answer your question, I do think it'll be Kyle at 6. I think they're doing a transition now. Kyle coming away from the wing now, and I think they're going to say long term, you know, this is going to be our number 6 now for a long time. That's what it looks like to me, Matt.
Yeah, but your own clubmate now, and you've touched on it there, Barry Murphy has been a revelation. I know he went back for Doon last year very satisfactorily, but going back into the corner, he has been he's had a fantastic league. Yeah,
he's been brilliant. And like other players I mentioned earlier that are going well, when you get, you know, every manager will tell you, if you get in and, you know, take your chance, you'll keep the jersey. You know, now Barry didn't play in the last 2 league games that we lost, but you know, he didn't put a foot wrong in any of the games before that. So when the team is named and if Barry Murphy isn't starting, you know, I think he'd be quite disappointed. But you know, that's just like anybody would be when they probably feel that they're in great form and they deserve a start. So look, I'd imagine if he does start or doesn't start, it's going to be very, very close. That he's done enough in most people's minds to probably be given the opportunity, you know. But again, it's like this, and I've been there before. It's when you're up against great players, you know, sometimes you lose out. Like if he does lose out, he could lose out to a Barry Nash or a Sean Finn, for example, lads that have probably 7 All-Stars between the two of them, you know. So it's in those positions, so it's not easy. But at least we know that if something does go wrong, God forbid, be it injury wise or form wise, and if he is there, if he doesn't start, I think he'll definitely come on, you know, in that position. And look, it's a long championship too. We've seen it. there'll be changes from game to game. There'll be injuries. There'll be different types of form, stuff like that. And obviously, from a doing perspective, you always want to see your clubmen doing well, and getting in and keeping their jersey. But again, Matt, it's like we're waiting for this team to be, rolled out on social media, whenever it'll be, probably Thursday or Friday, and everyone is very excited to see what this team will be, because, as Tom said earlier, it's probably the first time that we can't pick the majority of the team, heading into championship.
Yeah. Just to pick you up in two things there, Pat. I suppose just firstly, Barry Murphy will come to Kyle Hayes in a second. I think maybe the All-Ireland semi-final and the loss to Cork last year maybe highlighted the challenges that Limerick will face when they play Cork and other teams, because Cork's pace and Limerick didn't change any of their starting six backs that day. I know they swapped positionally as the game went on, but perhaps John Kiley and Paul Kinnerk can probably to look and see what other options do we have here. Maybe that's how, maybe as Matt said, Barry playing a little bit deeper for doing this year. They probably said, right, well, can we put him deeper again? And he has the attributes obviously to play maybe anywhere in the team, but maybe that bit of pace, that bit of nous, that bit of knowledge of how forwards play as well, that probably serves him well as being a real live option as we're discussing here.
Definitely, and the fact that his clubman Richie English, retired over the winter, I think that opened up the opportunity for that position, for him to say, because John and them are very good over that. There's different players over the years who they won't pigeonhole them to one position throughout their whole career, and that they'll say, okay, you've played here, but we think you could do a job here. Or if you go to them, I know from different examples that if you went to them and said, like Barry could have went to them, I don't know now, Barry could have went to them after having such a successful year with Doon, and he could have easily said, lads, I'd like to move back from midfield. I'd like to go from midfield maybe into the backs in one or two train sessions. And that management, I know from experience, are very accommodating in that. They'll say, okay, if you really feel like that, we'll try it out. And sure, like I said, then what can you do when you're given the opportunity? And you try and take it. And he had some fantastic games. Obviously, he was man of the match in one of the games, and even the first game against Cork, he was every bit as good that day as the day he got man of the match. He could have easily gotten it that night as well. So yeah, look, they're probably, I think that, as you said, when it comes to Cork and Cork in mind, I think that's why Kyle has gone into 6 as well. Cork kept every puck out away from his side, and both halves of the All-Ireland semi-final last year. It's quite a unique tactic. It's kind of a tactic you'd see from underage hurling. When you have a really strong player, you'd say keep the ball away from him. But that's what they've done. It's plain and simple. They've done it in 2 games. So I think Kyle going into 6, it shores us up with Dan behind him for coming down the line. Maybe them Cork's forwards are so good at running. All their goals come from the middle. As Owen said earlier, when Brian Hayes, this tactic of Brian Hayes coming out, knocking down the ball either side. And now we have kind of a new spine with Kyle at 6. So I think we'll be in a good position when we do inevitably meet them in the round robin, and maybe once or twice after that as well.
Yeah, Pat as well, just on Kyle Hayes. I mean, like you mentioned it there, him playing in full forward, which was a bit of a bolter a couple of years ago. We obviously saw him when he was only, I think, 20 in 2018. At centre forward. He's previously played wing back in, a kind of redefined the position in a way. Now I know it's not the only man to ever bomb man from there, but now going back to centre back, he's one of the most adaptable hurlers Limerick have. A fair few of them are, and a fair few in other counties are, of course. But like I'd say you could try him in goals, and there wouldn't be too much of a worry, or full back, or there's so much flexibility because of his physicality, his speed, his power, and then obviously his ability on the ball as well. So I suppose there's probably no real worry with him going into centre back.
Tom, he won an All-Ireland as a centre back at under 21 level in 2017.
Of course, yeah.
So it's not totally unaccustomed.
Full circle, comes back full circle. So we're saying, but go on, Pat. I'm just saying his flexibility is a real.
I've often joked him that he'll end up fullback in a couple of years when and he'll have kind of completed all the lines at some stage, because even with Kildime over the years he's played midfield as well, and I would love to have seen him at midfield over the years at Limerick, because I think he has kind of that perfect mix of going back and going forward. But one thing, when people speak about him in the backs, they obviously speak about some of the goals he's got even from wing back and the kind of the attacking threat. But to me, what separates Kyle from an awful lot is just his out and out defending ability. You know what I mean? He really is an incredible defender, in terms of the basics and the skills of hurling when it comes to defending. Like, he's one of the best hurlers I've ever seen to get a hook on opposition forwards, be it if they're going for a point or going for a goal, and he'll get back, you know what I mean? He'll always get back and get in that hook. I've seen it with teams. It was Jake Morris in the Gaelic rounds this year. He broke onto a ball, and if there was anyone else, I think, in the country, Jake, he broke onto a ball just out from the D approaching 21, And if there's anyone else in the country, I think he would have maybe took him on, tried to slice it, go for a goal. Jake Morris tapped the ball over the bar because he saw Kyle in front of him. And John, it's probably a smart decision because he said, you know, maybe I just won't be able to get past him, or maybe he backed me up. I'll take the pint here, and you know that's what he brings, and that's what probably doesn't get talked about enough. Is that his skill of defending is as good as I've ever seen, to be honest.
Right, so he's a shoe-in for fullback in a couple of years, so that's what we're hearing there.
From an opposition point of view, I'd be delighted to see him at 6 because he's such an attacking threat at wing back. I think he's a huge loss attacking wise from the wing back position. Consistently over and over, like he find himself and players looking for him and getting forward. Like you could give, I don't know how many examples. We played Limerick in Cork there a couple of years ago, and he ran, I think, from the 65.
His own 65, I'd say it was it? Yeah, and no stopping him.
Ran over Brendan Maher and ran over someone else as well, and hung it up like it just. So I think from a Tipperary point of view, and from wherever else in Munster and Ireland, I'd say they're delighted he's at 6 because obviously he's at 6. He's going to get more of a holding role. So, but I actually do think, I don't know, I obviously not included Limerick set up or a Limerick team, but I can actually probably see Barry Nash coming out into that position maybe to cover that maybe and putting Barry back in the corner.
You're saying Barry Nash at wing back, is that what you're saying? And
Barry Nash at wing back, and
for that athleticism to get up.
I think so. No, but we just don't know. But then you have the fight up in between Mike and Sean and Barry Murphy for the other 2 spots too. Like, you know what I mean? So anyway, it'll be or else maybe they'll be looking from the point of view that, okay, listen, we have a new keeper. Do we keep a solid full back line and keep it familiar back there? Do you know what I mean? So, and as Pat was saying, maybe Colin O'Neill back wing back there. He's definitely go forward too, you know. But
or Colin Coughlan as well. Like you're more than likely guaranteed to have one of the 3 between. Well, one of the 2 anyway. Because from the league, it looks like either Barry Murphy or Colin Coughlan will play it, and then it'll depend on the position of Barry Nash. That's what for going off the league. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. I suppose that just to move the conversation on a bit as well. Obviously, look, Sunday is one day in the calendar. The Munster Championship. It looks like we're going to have record attendances again in 2025. There's a real surge behind Cork. There's still a real belief in Limerick. There's Clare, obviously defending champions, and then Tipp and Waterford, I suppose, trying to make their way back. The championship on a whole, lads. Owen, how do you see it? The Munster Championship, maybe. Like people are maybe getting very excited about Cork. Are we wrong to are we jumping the gun there a little bit on them, or is it just that they have showed a very steady form, even from, I suppose, from round 2 last year when they have really picked it up and, you know, took of a ball away from an All-Ireland, but they've really picked it up again in 2025.
It's hard to believe there's no one talking about Clare and they're champions. Like
I've never seen it in hurling times. Anyway. I know people are in similar boat in the football, but like it's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, and like. I said it's a 3-horse race. I think it's between Limerick, Clare, and Cork. To be honest, I don't see any of the rest of them raising the gallop. In Leinster, Galway, Kilkenny maybe might catch someone on an off day. I think that Leinster Championship is a very competitive championship, right? I think it'll be a very, very competitive championship, the Leinster Championship, but at a lower level. I think the Munster Championship, Tipperary have won 5 matches in 5 years. That's the sad facts of it, right? We still don't know how good or bad we are, right, at the moment. We're hoping that we go on Sunday and we put a performance in. We do have brighter days coming down the road. Please God, with younger talent coming. We need the younger players to step up now, and the older players to really step up. And again, there's no pressure on Tipp at the weekend. There's none. The expectations around the county is low, right? So from a Limerick point of view, again, so many people are writing off Limerick. I think Limerick will win the Ireland this year. I don't know if Limerick want to win the Munster final, right? Maybe it's a shorter route, but they're my favourites to win the Ireland. I think there is question marks over a couple of senior lads, in particular in defence. They might have to. I think they will have to shake things up a bit there. I don't think Cork will win Ireland. I don't think Cork inside back line. I don't think the Cork goalie is good. I think that's where they're vulnerable. I think that Limerick will have learned a lot from them. But in saying that, I think this will be Kinnerk's finest achievement this year as a coach if he can win an Ireland, because it's not it's more down to the fact that how much hours that group of players have put in. I think the only thing for Clare and Limerick is they've been at each other's throats so much in the last 5 years that both teams have worn each other out. And I don't know, we just don't know. From a Clare point of view, we don't know where they are. Is Diarmuid Ryan broke a foot in October? He has no game time played. Is he going to start? I do expect Clare to put I do expect a really enjoyable game on Sunday. I would say the Clare Cork game. I think Clare will come out all guns blazing. I think that'll be a humdinger. I don't see Cork running in 5 or 6 goals this weekend against them. But there's question marks there. Shane O'Donnell, he thought maybe he might be back in 4 weeks, right? So we have to remember too, Clare had no Tony Kelly or no Ryan Taylor last year for a long part of the year either until the semi-final. So they're two big players to have back into their squad. So for me, Munster Championship, I think it's going to be a very good Munster Championship again. I do think it's the same three. I think Tipperary and Waterford are missing. I think Montgomery and Lyons, there's 2 or 3 players going travelling. Yeah, Colin Lyons, the 2 or 3 big players for them gone travelling. They started off well against Offaly in the league, but
Gleeson is back on.
Yeah, and there's question. Austin Gleeson is now standing hurler, but again, I wouldn't. Is he the best team player in the world? Do you know, if he was in around the Limerick squad there for the last 5 or 6 years, would he be the biggest thing I can say, the biggest I suppose tribute I can give to Limerick is Aaron, all the hurlers of the years and all the top players there, right? Aaron Glenn and Pat played them all. It's not about any individual, and it's all about giving the ball to the man in a better position. It's all about working for the man beside you. It's no matter how many All-Stars they have or how many All-Irelands they've won. It's not about Aaron Glenn. It's not about Cian Lynch. They'll just dive for each other. And the one criticism I have of Austin Gleeson, it seems to me it's all about Austin Gleeson, right? And that's it's one thing that I do not like in a player, at all. And it doesn't matter if it's a club player or the county player. No matter it has to be about the team. So I don't know if it's a good or bad thing for Waterford. Right, he's an outstanding player. When he's on form, he can beat you on his own. But when he's off, it can really suck the energy out of him. So listen, I just think as I said, I think it'll be the top 3. Maybe Tipp or Waterford can take a scalp. As I said, from a Tipperary point of view, I'd love Tipp to go out on Sunday. It was very tight 2 years ago. I'd love them to bounce back from last Sunday week and beat Limerick, right? But as I said, it's at the moment our confidence in the team is a bit low.
Oh, and just to finish you up on Tipperary, do you see success as Tipperary? If they get to the top 3, that it has to be success. But even last year, they didn't get to the last game with a chance. You know what I mean? Is it the case this year of can they get to the round 4 with their fate in their own hand, or still in the competition? You know, and see can they take a stab at it from there? Is that success for Tipperary in this year, and then trying to build again into next year?
Absolutely. As I say, you have to be realistic. You just don't go from 0 to 100 overnight. And it's such as we know we have good players in Tipperary, right? Absolutely. But I suppose what was disappointing was in Cork was we looked to have no shape. We looked to have no puck out strategy. We looked to have no this is year 3 of the management and coach, and it looked like that we were just thrown together. Now that can happen, right? And it can happen in a day. So we'll excuse that, because as I said, the league this year was a lot more positive, and it looked like we had our team in place, and we looked like that we were going. There was a bit of structure to it. But so I just hope on Sunday that we bring structure, we go at Limerick, and we bring the game to them, and that we go at them. Absolutely, we have to beat Waterford, right? If Cork beat Clare, we're going to Cork after Limerick, so we're going back down to where we were given a trim until it was 10 or 11 points 2 weeks ago. So it's not easy. It's not easy. So we need to get going quick. And listen, as I said, is if Cork get beaten, then that could have a detrimental effect to them confidence-wise, because they're on such a high, and are they maybe getting carried away down there? Do you know what I mean? So, so can we capitalise on that as well? So listen, from Tipperary point of view, to answer your question, yes, right. If we can get into the top three this year, it would be amazing.
Yeah, Pat, do you see anything different to the three that Owen his name in there to advance the same three as last season?
I'm kind of to and fro from it a lot of the time, but
sorry, just while you're thinking of it earlier, the fixtures, people I don't think are factoring in. The Cork have to go to Limerick and Clare.
Yeah.
That is testing in its own right now. They're certainly capable of winning all 4 games, don't get me wrong, but the fixtures can have a lot to do with it, and even sometimes you get to the last round and you might have a team that's out. These things can have bearings on who finishes in top 2.
It has fierce bearings, you know what I mean? But at the same time, right, you called out their 2 away fixtures. Their 2 home fixtures are the bookies' favourites to be 4th and 5th. And any year, any team has got 2 wins, their team has gotten out. So all Cork have to do technically is win their 2 home games. If you're looking at that, it's just progression.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Like, them 2 games are very tough, and the Weeds could come off if they lost to Clare the weekend. Just the way things are. Now again, you have a team that they lost their first 2 games last year. You know what I mean?
It is, yeah.
Tip
but
Tip
they were relying on favours. They were relying on favours then from
exactly.
They were looking at other matches basically to stay.
Waterford were incredibly unlucky not to get out last year. You know what I mean? But you're talking about fixtures. There was never been a run of probably 4 or 5 weeks for a team to be, if you want to call it unlucky, or just a hard run of fixtures of what Tipperary have at the moment. 2 weeks ago down to, or a week or 2, wherever it was, down to Cork, then Limerick, then you're playing Limerick. We're going for 7 Romans titles. Then you're playing Cork again, away again, and then you're going away to the All-Ireland champions in Innis. Like that, it does not get any tougher than that. That is as tough as it gets. So it's going to take an awful lot of mental strength for Tipperary that even if they lose the first 2 games, they still have a great chance of going through. You know what I mean? If we go down and we beat Clare, even if we lost our first 2 games, it's in our hands completely, more or less, then with Waterford coming to town in the last game. So again, if
Darragh McCarthy would you play Darragh McCarthy tonight in the 20s?
Again, look, I've never been a manager. I've only been a player. So if I was a player and if you asked me, and if I was Darragh McCarthy, I'd say, "Oh, geez, I need to play tonight." I'd say, I climb up if I don't play. I'd say,
better than training anyway.
As a young player, you just want to play. You know what I mean? I don't think it's that bad. At the same time, I'd say Limerick probably messed up that if Limerick didn't pull off that upset in the first round, Tip would be sitting on 2 points or 2 wins in the 20s, and then they probably would have been left off. Now they're down to start, maybe they will be left off. You know what I mean? But again, I personally don't see it as that big of an issue. A young lad that age, I think it's okay. I think you can get away with 2 games.
Yeah.
In the space of 4 days. Other people disagree, and that's fine. And results dictate opinion, who's right and who's wrong. Like if Darragh plays tonight and plays poor on Sunday, people will blame that. If Darragh plays tonight and plays well on Sunday, they'll say, "Geez, it was great for him."
Do you know what? I think by playing him tonight, nearly takes a bit of pressure off him for Sunday.
Yeah. And you said earlier, the game he played below against Cork, lads, Mark and Sean doing in a game like that, a full house. He's never played. He's played big games for his club, and he's played the 20s game last year, but nothing compares to senior championship when you're playing a full house like that. Mark and a fella that's been on the Cork team for 7 or 8, 9 years, over he was Cork captain last year. He got a bit of a cleaning, but that can be that is worth 6 months of training and 4 months of league hurling. Like that is worth so much thing going into the next 2 rounds of games they have. So look, to get to my prediction, Tom, I think Cork and Limerick will win this weekend, right? I think Clare then will go down to Waterford. I think Waterford are funny. I say this about Waterford, and I don't mean it in a bad sense. Very good players, but not a very good team. A very good team is a consistent team. But last year they won their first round against Cork. I think they're just very capable. They have their first round at home again this year against Clare. So I actually think Waterford
seem to be able to rise themselves for that first game.
And you know what? To be honest, with the poor record they have, you see everything is in that game. The reason they nearly got out last year is because of that great win in the first round against Cork. So and they were very unlucky not to get out. So I think they'll actually probably beat Clare. I think you'll have Clare and Tip coming in the third round. Where is that the third round for Clare as well, or from Tip? Today Tip go down to play Clare. I think you'll have Tip. I think you'll have Tip and Clare on no points. Basically, is what I think. And I think if I really got into each game how I predicted happen, I think Clare, Cork.
Big on.
I think Clare, Tip, and Waterford will all finish level on points on 1 win. So we'll wait and see. we'll wait and see how that goes. And the three of them will go score difference, and Limerick and Cork will win the rest of the games. But look, there's always an upset or two along the way. If I had to say,
I think Clare are great. I think Clare are great bet this weekend. I think everybody has written off.
Yeah, they've been them the last 4 times they played them in championship as well over the last 3 years. Like it's a very interesting game, and you know what? It'd be great if they did win it in one way, because it would add so much spice to the fact that
Clare went down last year. They had Limerick bet in Cusack Park, right? They were 7 points up. Limerick came back and bet them. The following Saturday night they had to go to Cork, right? And they were down. They were down by 6 or 7 points again, I think.
Down by 7 in one session for us.
Yeah, and came back and bet them in Cork last year.
Yeah. Now, the only thing was Shane O'Donnell was unreal about it.
He was unreal, but there's no Tony Kelly and no Ryan Taylor.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? So it's listen.
They're more than capable.
Munster championship, lads. You could debate it either way all night. You know.
You could get 5 people coming up with 5 different combinations of who will come out. I think Cork and Limerick are nailed to come out, but I've been trying to agree with Pat after that. You know, it's going to be very, very tight between the other 3. Like we're tending to write off Clare, I suppose, and I suppose that is, you know, that is because maybe of the whole Shane O'Donnell thing. Their performance in the league, the uncertainty if Dermot Ryan will be available. He's such a key player. I think they're going to be up against it against Cork, but they will have learned from the game in Ennis, and like, you know, league and championship, different as chalk and cheese, you know. And as Owen rightly pointed out, the space that Cork got to get the 6 goals against Clare, that's not going to be there on Sunday. So, you know,
I think that's only one real fear with Limerick.
Get over the line. They will have a carryover from the league that might take them over the line, and but after that, I think you know, it's going to be dog eat dog. Make no mistake about it. I wouldn't be terrible happy with we having to go to Waterford. Going to be a tricky game for Limerick. Make no mistake about it. We have 2 tricky away games, and we have 2 home games that are not gimmies.
So they're all hard.
I'd say one thing, the only concern there exists about Limerick, because this doesn't even get mentioned, is the fact that Limerick are going for 7 in a row. You know what I mean? No team had ever done 6 in a row. So we are an ultra consistent team. But in the last 7 seasons, we've been to 6 Munster finals, and we've been to 7 All-Ireland semi-finals. So I think the only fear to me is that someday, one of these years, that the legs, you know what I mean, in terms of it, does it have to give eventually? Like, you know what I mean? How consistent can one group continue to be over that 7 seasons? You know, getting All-Ireland semi-finals, like that. They've done way more hurling than any team in Ireland, any inter-county team in Ireland over that last 7 seasons. You know what I mean? And obviously, it's a lot of the same players. But eventually, someday there will be a down year.
That, Pat, is that Clare are probably the only team that have stood toe to toe at Limerick, right?
But for the majority of that time, yeah.
Right. So they have gone to hard yards with that Limerick team and been on the wrong side of it a lot of times. So they probably are probably worse off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But because when you're winning, it makes it a good bit easier, I'd say. Do you know what I mean? Then, do you know? So that's that's what I'm saying to you. Is I think Limerick and Clare have nearly wore each other out. So Cork might slip in and be a bit fresher. That's all. That's the only thing. But the only thing about it is Limerick and Clare are very battle hardened.
Yeah, but Pat is right when what he says about you know, the changes in the Limerick team over the 7 years have been minimal.
They have been minimal, but the thing about it is, as Pat says, why should, like, if it's not broken, why fix it? And I think John Kiley, he's looking to change 10% every year, right? So, and that's what he has done really, and both personnel and so, like, and I definitely think we're going to see new faces this year. Right, 100%. I definitely think we're going to see new faces. The only thing I question is, will Limerick have been happy getting 30 points, hitting the 30-point mark every year and beating teams? Will they look at maybe changing that up and try and get a couple more goals to lessen the load of having to get more and more scores? Do you know what I mean? Because that's definitely a tactic. Cork is rattling 3 goals, rattling 4 goals, whatever it is, and put teams to bed earlier. Do you know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see, will Limerick go after goals more? It hasn't been their mantra. Like, they've been happy to get 28, 20, 29, 30 points. But like, come here, as the fella says, it's going to be a very interesting and something to look forward to. A little short in the summer.
Absolutely, yeah.
Sure.
Lads, yeah, we're absolutely delighted, I suppose, to have you on and discussing this, lads. In fairness, we're very much looking forward to it. I think is the whole county and the whole province. Everyone's really looking forward to it. So look, I suppose I wishing you the best, lads, and enjoying those games. And hopefully you won't be too hoarse Sunday now from shouting on your respective counties, and hopefully a long summer, I suppose, for all connected. And lads, thanks very much for joining us on this podcast. We'll be definitely chatting to you over the year, and we'll see you, I'm sure, for Club Championship later in the summer.
Thanks a million, lads. Thanks, Owen. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Pat. And thanks indeed to Owen. Yeah, Matt, great chat with the lads there.
Absolutely fantastic. Fantastic insight, and good cross section of views there. And both people, both guests tonight, like with experience from being on their respective county panels, and playing at the top level, and it's great to get an insight into that, at this point. But it's an unbelievable championship to look forward to.
It is, yeah, it is.
Like,
it is.
You can see that
there is a case, Matt, for the 5 teams in some shape or form to get into the top 3. There's no doubt about it. You could see Waterford.
Ryan made the point when he said he thinks Cork and Limerick will probably win most of their games, except when they meet, and that the others might have one win each. It could be the analysis of it,
Yeah.
Because
that'd be some dynamic, wouldn't it? Going into the last day when there's scoring difference and everything. Yeah.
Like I was saying, more Limerick under the radar. I think Clare are probably under the radar. So much was made of the injury to Shane O'Donnell. It was sort of probably linked maybe with them being relegated. How serious is being relegated from Division 1A to Division 1B?
Yeah.
One might ask themselves.
Well, I don't think they won the league last year. They have that box ticked. I don't think they care too much about defending.
Is it the end of the world? Is it a stigma? What is it? I think it's none of them.
Yeah.
It will allow them next year, probably, and no disrespect to the people down there and the teams down there in Division 1B. It will allow them a bit of latitude. Now Brian Lohan tried to introduce a lot of new players, maybe too many in the early rounds of the league, and probably, fell back a bit and fell out of the race maybe too soon. But he would have a bit more latitude to do that in Division 1B. And I think that the fact that they were relegated to Division 1B won't make one heck of a difference to how they perform in the championship.
No, it won't. I just think what it might is do they have lads who are in enough of form and have enough minutes? But look, there's been a long break since the league for Limerick and Clare, who weren't involved in that league final, and the other 3 weren't, of course, only a fortnight ago. So they've had a chance to recharge, reset, and refocus. So anyway, Matt, I'm conscious the clock is running on very, very. We'd hoped for 35 minutes with the lads, but here we are hitting the hour mark.
It was so interesting, Tom. Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Matters elsewhere, Matt. The minor hurdlers are they're warming up Thurles on Friday. Not warming up Thurles. They're going to Thurles Friday. I'm getting my fixtures mixed up, but Friday coming, the minors looking to, I suppose, bounce back from two defeats so far. We saw glimmers blow in Waterford. We were there to see it. We saw glimmers against Cork the first day out. There's the makings of a team there, but they just haven't been able to put together that 60-minute performance. So Tipperary, who are also not from 2. So big chance for both of these sides, because the winner will be guaranteed to be off the bottom heading into the final round. So it's a big game for both sides.
Yeah, just to explain it, Tom. The 4 teams are going through.
Yeah.
Two teams will go to the Munster final, and the next 2 will go into the All-Ireland series, where they will play the beaten Leinster semi-finalists in a preliminary quarter-final.
Okay, right. Very good.
And the winners then will play the beaten provincial finalists.
Okay.
And then the winners...
So the aim here is...
There's a pathway of games there. And like from a Limerick perspective, it's huge. It's huge for both sides on Friday night. Like, who would have thought that Tipperary winning in All Ireland with, was it 13 men in Nolan Park not too long ago?
Yeah.
That
10
they
months
would
ago, yeah.
find themselves in this position, and like they have a good sprinkling of players from Thurles CBS who won the All Ireland Crow Cup. To think that they'd find themselves in this position, like, you know, even if Tipp were to win, whoever wins on Friday evening, all they're guaranteeing, Tom, is that they're getting into the All Ireland series.
Yeah, they're guaranteeing fourth in the group, basically. Yeah,
because they're not likely to gate crash into the top two. Now, you'd have to say that Cork, you know, have the heavy lifting done in that regard.
Yeah, and Waterford are there with them as well. So
yeah, that they've gone to Limerick, they've gone to Clare, and they have won. And you know, the next game for Cork is could very well be a dress rehearsal of the Munster final, because you and I, we travelled to Waterford, Tom, to see the Limerick game, and we came away hugely impressed with Waterford, almost as impressed as we were with Cork after the first round. So it's a big task. And people that might be inclined to say, look, sure, they're both beaten twice. It's a dead rubber. It's not. It's anything but a dead rubber.
Yeah, it's actually a knockout game, and it was the same last year for Limerick and Waterford in the same grade, and Waterford won out in the Gaelic round. So big game for both teams, really, you know, and trying to prolong their season and keep themselves in the hunt for national honours, you know.
No, the only thing is, if you were to lose it, if suppose we were to lose it and beat Clare, and Cork beat Waterford, or Cork beat Tipp, there'd be three teams then on 2 points.
Yes, of course, that's possible, but I suppose I don't know.
We're clutching with straws now at this stage.
Clare have to play Waterford as well in the final round when Limerick aren't playing. So look, there's a lot of hoops for that. But look, win this game and you're in a very good position
very good position,
at least, you know, and with a game to come against Clare in Limerick's situation. So look, that's Friday evening in Semple Stadium. As I said, a bit of a warm up for the venue. Limerick then will conclude in round 4. McNeville Park, as it is at the moment anyway, on the 25th against Clare. Matt, just to stay on the small ball, Kamogi, Limerick will be, I think it's supposed the curtain raiser, and it's been a good tradition brought in by the Munster Kamogi and Munster Council, GA, that I suppose where possible they will play the Munster senior Kamogi matches before the senior hurling matches, and the draw has worked out that Limerick will face Tipperary 2 p.m. start in Semple Stadium a Sunday before the 4 p.m. hurling clash. Limerick will be under pressure here, Matt. I don't think there's any sugarcoating it. Tipperary are one of the consistently strong teams in the country, and Limerick are trying to rebuild themselves after, you know, losing so many players in the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, Limerick are very much in transition at the moment, Tom. All right, they won 2 games out of 5 in the group stages. They were fiercely competitive in the others. Actually, were very, very, very unlucky not to win in Wexford. But look, there's a disparity between the teams. Tipperary are a grade 1 team. You could say Limerick are a grade 2 team, and that's no disrespect to
Limerick. Well, their league
Joe Quaid has been slowly rebuilding, and it's very much a team in transition. As you rightly said, they lost 14 players at the start of the year before a ball was poked for various reasons. Some gone abroad, some have retired. And for various reasons. So he had an awful lot of gaps to plug. And the first thing, I suppose, starting off in the league, your first target had to be survival. And in the league, they got a good win against Down in the first round, which gave them a bit of breathing space. And then that big win over Westmeath in the final round, which ensured like that Division 1 Kamogi for next year. Now, Tipperary haven't rooted up any trees, Tom, in the league. They were the defending champions, as you know. They only won 2 games. One of them was at the expense of Galway, and the other was at the expense of Kilkenny. So, but they are a formidable outfit. Now, they have lost a couple of players, a couple of important players from last year through injury and otherwise, but they are still a very formidable outfit. Like, they gave us a trimming in the All-Ireland Championship last year. And it was on that infamous day, Tom, that the 6 games were played and the average losing margin was 25 points.
And was the Limerick game? I think the Limerick game was even above that. Was it? Limerick was above
It was
the
above
average.
it. It was above it. It was
30
29
or
points.
something. 29. I was at 30. Yeah, 29. Yeah. And
But the average was 25. And like the Kamogi Association that saw nothing wrong with that to change the system this year, I despair at it.
Yeah.
You know,
No, we won't be opening that can today, Matt. But
more of the same this year.
Yeah. Look, we're I suppose coming back to this match Sunday, we're encouraging, I suppose, the Limerick faithful to get in early, get
in early, cheer on the girls. They will give it everything.
But they will need. I think they'll need that support, Matt, because it is quite a young team in the main anyway, and maybe lacking experience at this level. And I'd say the Tipperary sport will be in. So why not have the Green Army match it on and. Could make the difference, And look, it's been testing in the last few years in these games for Limerick, but it is great that there is some bit of a acknowledgement of Camogie that they get to play on the big days.
That there is recognition for it, and I hope that this is a forerunner of what will be greater recognition when full integration comes in 2027.
Yeah, we tip our hats to the Munster bodies who've made this happen the last few years, and long may it continue. Okay, Matt.
It was a disappointing end to the minor championship for the minors last week. They suffered a defeat to Kilkenny 14 to 8 points in Templedanton in the All-Ireland Day semi-final. Now, the Kilkenny team was as good a team as I've seen, Tom.
Yeah, you cautioned us, Matt, that you think you were fearful enough that Kilkenny could be
that team. They actually bore out everything that I thought about them. They are really, really, really good now. And but Limerick, they conceded 4 goals, Tom. And this is not wearing a green hat or green eyes or green glasses or anything like that. But there were 4 preventable goals. We were unlucky. But we were with them. We were with him for 20, 25 minutes, gave him as good as we got, but the concession of the goals. And of course, Tom, there was 2 goals in a minute right at the end, when the game was over as a contest.
Yeah. Well, it makes it look a lot worse than when it was.
Evening and I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. It was a disappointing result. But it was a very, very young Limerick team. 7 or 8 of the starting team are eligible next year, and nearly all the subs are eligible next year, who will be the nucleus of the under-16 All-Ireland winning team of last year. And, of course, Orna Barrett will be back next year, who was a huge loss this year.
Yeah, the captain from the 16s, yeah.
Captain of the under-16s, fantastic player. But she'll be back next year. So, not jumping ahead of myself, it was a disappointing result. I was out at it. And as I say, Limerick might have suffered a heavy defeat, but they went down fighting, and they went down with credit. And again, I would say, Tom, and I've said it before, credit Templedanton.
Fine venue for you.
I've said it before, for the manner in which they had everything organised, from the time you arrived at the ground to your parking, hospitality, everything, absolutely fantastic. Full credit to them. There should be more matches in places like Templedanton. And that was twice now that the minors played in Templedanton. And Tom, the sky didn't fall down, did it?
No, it didn't. And if you, a man who was to travel from the foot of the Galties all the way back to West Limerick, is advocating for games there, then I tell you, they must have been treating you with a great level of enthusiasm and all the rest of
Tom,
it.
The 3 girls, actually, there was 3 girls from Anglesborough, Kilbehenny playing.
Yes.
And they're further from Templedanton than I am, and they certainly enjoyed that experience. I was speaking to them all afterwards, and some of them before it, and they were quite happy with it. And
very good.
Like you couldn't be happy, you couldn't be but happy with the facilities that were there, Tom.
Okay.
No, Tom. Just on another note, and I won't delay you. I know you're going refereeing a match. I was out to see the Celtic Challenge game on Saturday morning.
Oh, yes. Yeah. In Charleville, isn't it? Yeah.
In Charleville. Limerick were beaten by Cork Whites. Now, Cork Whites would be drawn from Cork City, which would be the Shandon division. And drawn from East Cork, which would be Imekilly. There are 2 teams from Cork. There are Cork Whites, and I presume it is Cork Reds. But again, the concession of 2 goals in as many minutes just before halftime was the real difference. It was nip and tuck. Now Limerick, it ended up 3-13 to 1-13. Limerick got a goal with the last puck of the game now from Conor O'Dwyer, but you would have to say it was nothing more than they deserved. But I think there can be no argument that Cork Whites, Tom, deserved their victory, and they go again this Saturday morning in Crescent Comprehensive College when they will face Clare. Now, there are 3 teams in the groups. All 3 will be going through to the knockout stages. Basically, the group phase is nothing more than a seeding process. Cork Whites have beaten Clare, so I've beaten them quite comfortably as well. So it will be it'll make a difference whether you finish second or third. It will depend on the level of competition you come into at the knockout stage. So look, overall, Owen Sullivan and his management team had done a very good job in preparing our Celtic Challenge team, and I think they could be capable of winning more games than they lose, Tom.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see how they progress this weekend in that second game. Matt, just as well, I think I suppose ladies football were
just on ladies football, Tom.
I'll come to men's football now in a second as well.
The Munster Championships were launched last night. The Munster Senior A and Senior B football championships. Now we are the defending Senior B champions. We beat Cork in the final in Mallow last year. So there are 4 teams in our group, including ourselves, and our first game is against Clare's intermediate team.
Yep.
And then we have home advantage with Kerry's, which will be Kerry's second team, and then we travel to play Cork's second team, with the top 2 teams qualifying for the final. Something similar to last year. Now, this is the 3rd year of the Munster Senior B Championship, Tom. And it was brought about by the fact that you had Tipperary, Waterford, Kerry and Cork all going up to senior level.
Yeah.
So what was left for Limerick, and Limerick and Clare.
I know Clare played in Connacht, I think, 1 year, didn't they? In some shape or form. Yeah.
They did. Yeah. And so it was to bring it back home. Now, I was at the finals last year in Mallow. It was a fantastic day in Mallow. I've lauded this before, the manner in which it was organised. You had Limerick beating Cork in the first round and Senior B final, and you had Kerry beating Cork in the A final. So Limerick will be out on Saturday week, Tom. I might be subject to correction on that, but it's the weekend. Yeah. It's the weekend after next. They'll be travelling down to Clare. So
Saturday the 26th. Yeah, we'll look at that a little bit more next week. Okay, that's ladies football. As we said, we've already discussed Kamogi, and just to mention the football, I suppose Limerick senior footballers waiting for the Celtic Cup to draw and all the rest of it to progress. The Limerick 20s waiting for an Ulster opponent to come in the All-Ireland B Championship. Yes, go on.
The minors.
Yes. Oh no, I have it here. Yeah, I was. Limerick bouncing back from that defeat to Clare with a victory over Tipperary, 2-14 to 1-12. Limerick kicked two goals, two pointers in the first half. They went, Matt, would you believe they went 14 points up at one stage before Tipperary registered, and while Tipperary, I suppose, chipped away at it in the second half. Mike Lenihan's men had that winning position all the way through, and ended up winning by five. Yeah, that was the slowest Tipperary got, and that was right at the end. So, some great performances in that Limerick first half in particular. I'm just trying to find the details here. Shane Gill, Ryan Sheehan. These were among the scorers. The goal scorers were Jack Crowley, and Sheehan. Yeah. Oisin Healy, yes, I should say.
Oisin Healy got the friend
and he set up the other. He set up the second goal. He got the first one and then gave a wonderful kick ball from the maybe 50 meters into the square, in just outside the square. Crowley caught it, spun, and rolled it under the keeper. Yeah. It was fantastic play. Real, you would say nearly old school stuff, but really, really good play by Limerick. And then they quickly tacked on two pointers, two doubles, as some people now are calling them. And while Tipperary made inroads, Limerick were comfortable, Matt. It was great to see. Disappointed to lose out. I think was it by 7 or 8 to Clare, but very much bouncing back here. In round 2.
Yeah, it makes it very interesting now, Tom. I understand, and maybe you can confirm this, that the only survivor from last year was Leon Curtin, who picked up a knock against Clare, was named to start against Tipperary, and was unable to line out. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, he wasn't. It wasn't included at all, as from what I gather. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's fascinating now in that it's not automatic if we beat Waterford that we're into the final.
No, but good chance of it, I would think. Tipperary, Clare have 2 wins, Limerick have 1 win, Tipperary have 1 win, and Waterford have no points. So Limerick will have to beat Waterford, I think, just to don't have to beat Waterford, but the best thing to do is to beat Waterford, and then I suppose they'll be looking at Clare keeping up their good form, and that will make, if Clare go 3 for 3 and Limerick make it 2 wins, that'll put Limerick into the final. So that's the target there.
And they'll be contesting the Darrell Darcy Cup final.
Yes, yeah, and so Limerick have home advantage in that final game, and look, they probably will be keeping one eye on the Clare and Tipperary match. But
the margin will be very important in Limerick, in Clare and Tipperary, particularly if Tipperary win it.
I think it will only matter if Tipperary win it. It should only matter if Tipperary win it. Yeah, if Tipperary win and if Clare win and Limerick win, it'll be a Limerick-Clare final. That's the simplest way of looking at it.
That's clear cut. But Limerick now are -3 at the moment.
Yeah.
Tipperary are -5.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So look, Limerick need to go out and be dominant over Waterford just to tick that box.
Yeah, but the Waterford margin won't count, Tom.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, yeah. Just need to win the game. That's right.
It's between the 3 counties, you see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, Monday the 28th is that one. So this Monday coming off, and then back into 28th. So best of luck to Mike Lenihan of Mount Collins and the rest of the management team there.
We'll talk about it next week anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, folks, thanks very much for listening to and indeed watching Treaty Talk. Do let us know in the comments if you enjoyed the chat with Pat and Eoin. I suppose, how couldn't you? Would be our opinion. And do indeed let us know your predictions for the Munster Championship. We'd love to hear what people think. For me, just to conclude, I think it will be Limerick and Cork in the Munster final. And I don't know, I'm very much on the fence, but I suppose if I had to call it, I think Clare will sneak into third. They have a very good knowledge of how to get out of this Munster round robin. To be fair to them now, they might be great in the final, but they have a good knowledge of how to negotiate it. So that's it for me, Matt. Anything else to add for yourself?
No.
Okay, over and out. Thanks a million, folks. We'll chat to you again on Treaty Talk.